Welcome to the Sunday night chat. It's going to be a little bit different this week. I'm about to head out to Monterey, and I figure you guys would like to see the setup with the van here, and then I'll shoot some clips on the way up and talk about what's been going on. It's my first time mounting a bike this way. I've run two bikes on the back of this when I first set it up. This is an old Allen rack. You see it right here. And it wasn't complete. I bought it at a swap meet. I don't even remember when. But I had it up on a shelf for a long time and figured I couldn't ever use it on the van. I thought I'd use it on the front of the van. But I just rigged it like this. Ratchet strap, real strong. So I'll check it. If it stretches, I put this pedal up on here with a strap to keep the bike padded away. Just had somebody walk through. Now there's helicopters coming, so apologies for the sound. But should work out pretty well. Now I know my taillight's blocked a little bit on this side now, which we'll see how that works out. I mean, it should be okay. So it's a war zone in LA. I've got a brake light up top and this one on the side. I do have brake lights, turn signals that are going to mount in these holes on this bumper, and they are in the van. I just haven't put them on yet. I should. So inside the van, we got my tool tote here, and I got a bag of clothes here, some tools here, and underneath here we've got a pretty good kit of tools and some other things. You guys know I sleep up here. This is the custom threshold I made. One guy gave me, he's like, I think you made a mistake by putting this here. Well, that's because you don't know what I'm doing, dude. There's an existing threshold, and then there's another threshold on top of that. I'm removing the one on top. I'm going to cut a channel in the bottom one, and it fixed this with a bunch of construction adhesive, drill through, and put some wood plugs. Yeah, so it's a pretty good setup, and it is 9 o'clock in the morning, according to my Seiko turtle. We're gonna head out right now, so hope you guys like this. Also, this is the back parking area here. I live upstairs. I actually shelled out my own cash. Originally, the porch back here was only this wide, and when they were redoing that, the guy doing it, I asked him, I said, how much would it cost to make it bigger? And I paid for it out of my own pocket. So I want you to see this, because now you're going to see a clip I shot yesterday of a structure behind this sort of situation 2 doors down, and that's what they're going to be building back here pretty soon, probably this summer. It's gonna suck. So enjoy that little clip, and stay tuned. There's more to come. Hey, I'm on the 154, so I took the 101 to Santa Barbara, and then I got on the 154, and I'm about to pick up the 101 again. And I've used a little over a quarter of a tank of gas. And you know, if you look at the map, the 101 goes way out of the way, and the 154 is like a shortcut. Although I hit a bunch of traffic going up that mountain road, up until I got to this lake up there, and then I was able to pass everybody and kind of make up some time. But the lake was beautiful. It's called the Chumash Highway. And I was thinking here on this, you know, my dad, it's kind of a long story, but my father, he came over here by himself. He was in New Jersey. His uncle owned a hat shop. He did that for like 6 months. He was like 15 when he came over, something like that. And then he started washing dishes in diners and stuff, and he wanted to become a baker. So he eventually became a baker, but it was a long thing. Like over several years, he learned enough to where he could walk into a bakery and say, I'm a baker. And he ended up down at the Jersey Shore, and he got himself a job at this place called Elaine's Bakery, which no longer exists. And Elaine's was there before Park Bakery ever existed. My dad sold the business, or left the business rather, in 1976. That's about the year Park Bakery started. At any rate, geez, I'd have to do the math, but I think it was about 10 years there or so where he owned the bake shop. Well, we got there at 19, and there was this old couple that owned it, and they loved him, and they made him the manager. And then a few years into it, they wanted to retire, and they literally gave him the business. And it was a seasonal business at that time. There wasn't enough people living in Seaside back then, at least that's what I hear, to sustain a bakery year-round. So my dad would leave, and he basically spent about 4 months a year at the Jersey Shore running this bakery. And many of the families there that had young kids and whatnot, they all worked for my father. My father was a well-known, beloved guy. His nickname was Pierre. So if you were in the Seaside in the 60s, all through the 60s, into the 70s, you might know of Pierre. He worked on fishing boats at different times, did all kinds of things, but the rest of the year, what he did was he drove around the country, and he had been to every state in the lower 48. He'd been every state except for Alaska and Hawaii. And he got a brand new car every year, convertible, Mercury convertible with a Continental kit on the back, and he was slick. Now, he would tell me stories, but I know all this because he also was a shutterbug, and he used to shoot slide film. And when I was a kid, I found all these reams and reams and reams of slides, and we had a slide projector. And so from time to time, we would do a little slideshow, and I would just look at the slides all the time. But the funny thing was, I found a whole ream of slides of naked women, man. Just gorgeous women, nude, walking in the fields and bathtubs, all kinds of stuff. You know, it's crazy. It's in the blood. So, but the cool thing was these pictures were all over the country and just amazing scenery and trains. And so it's one of these things. It's the reason I drive. I don't know how many times I've driven across the country. That's how many times I've done it. I think the last time I remember counting, it was something like 21 times and something like 17 different vehicles. And so when I'm looking at maps and looking where to go, and I'm not even using maps on the phone right now. Once I get on the 101, I might do it just to track my speed and whatnot. But I like finding these little two-laners and looking at stuff and just seeing all the stuff that my dad saw. And I'm reliving this through him, you know. My father, is responsible for putting this wanderlust into me, you know. He's the reason. You know, he told me he had this great life before he met my mother. And it was pretty fun, man. And he really made it sound like a good time. And I think, in large part, that's the reason why I live the life that I live and the way that I live it. You know, on my own terms, that's it. And I don't stop to ponder this very often anymore. I'm kind of busy trying to survive, you know. But that's what he did for years. And he met my mom in like 65-ish, you know. I don't know, something like that. Lied about his age. She didn't know how old he was until the day they were getting married when she saw the... I think she told me that he had told her that he was like 23 years old. And she was 18. But he was actually 29 years old. So, I don't lie. You know, that's the one thing. Maybe I should, I don't know. But, anyhow, like I said, I just grew up seeing all these pictures. And it's a shame because, okay, I got to get on the 101 here. Interesting. I also want to get some fuel at some point here. So let me get this done here. We're going pretty slow. It's the out-of-state plates, you know. And then the California kids, everybody's doing 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, you know. At any rate, I just thought you guys might enjoy that. And we're getting on a highway here and we're doing 40 miles an hour, and this is an on-ramp. And for those of you that don't know how to drive, like the people in front of me, you're supposed to use the on-ramp to get up to speed so that when you merge onto the highway, you're already at highway speed. It's the long skinny pedal, buddy. There you go. There you go. Kick in the ass. Kick in the ass. All right. So anyhow, I'll talk about this right now while I'm looking for a gas station. I just want to say, too, about what's happening right now with, and I'm not following it, right? I'm not watching the news. I've been a little bit busy with other stuff. But, hey, man, Trump went after these 3 targets, right? These nuclear sites. And maybe something is happening right now that I'm not aware of. But here's the thing. Leading up to this, there's a lot of these pundits out there. Tucker Carlson, people like this. And they're trying to, they're just saying a lot of stupid things. World War III, we don't want war, no war, no war. We're not in a war, at least not at this point, okay? It's not happening. What Trump just did is, what I think, is end a war. That's what I think just happened, okay? Because the only Trump that Iran ever had, the only cards that they ever had was the fact that they could dangle this threat, and they were playing this coy game where they were using their proxies, right? Hezbollah, Hamas, all these other terrorist organizations. By the way, that was your tax dollars, right? You guys remember Obama. What did you give him? I forget. Was it hundreds of millions of dollars, or was it like $6 billion? However much money that Obama and the other administrations were giving away to Iran and other people that want to kill us, cut our heads off, and everything else. That's the money that funded Hezbollah and Hamas and all of that. On top of the fact that when Biden got into office, we stopped producing our own oil here in large part. And so Iran was able to start making more money off of their oil. Because remember, when Trump was in office the first time, he set it up so our allies couldn't buy oil from Russia or Iran anymore, which bankrupted both Russia and Iran, which is why during the first Trump administration, there was no war. It was the last 4 years of who the hell knows who was running the country that set the world on fire. Now Trump's in here again, and Trump's a friggin' genius, man. For those of you who weren't paying attention over the last few months, Trump was just in Saudi Arabia, right? What do you think he was doing there? I'll tell you what he was doing. He was building a coalition, an alliance through commerce to get all those countries on our side. You might notice right now, nobody's supporting Iran. Iran's not a threat anymore, okay? There's still some crap going on right now. I get it. Let it settle. Give it some time. Stop being so impatient, all right? It's all going to work out in our favor. And the people in Iran want this to happen. There's a guy, Tosi TV. He plays the game too a little bit, okay, with the war stuff and everything. But he's Iranian and he lives in Britain. And he's been showing film of people in Iran partying. They're partying. They're in their apartments having a good time. They're happy to see all the explosions because they finally believe, right, that America's on their side, the people's side, so that they can get rid of the Shah, the mullahs, and everything else. Iran is the reason why you want a separation of church and state, okay? The people in Iran were never supporting the people that were ruling over them. So let's see how this shakes out, all right? Let's see how this shakes out. I think it's going to be a good thing in the end. So calm your jets here. Let's see. I guess I'll find out when I get to where I'm going here and catch up on the news a little bit. This is what I voted for. All right? This is what I voted for. And for better or worse, whether you like it or not, and I'm not happy about it, but I had nothing to do with it. America is kind of like the police of the world. That's just how it is. And in the past, we've had all these corrupt politicians that were letting things happen, that was putting money in their pockets and the pockets of their family members, and the pockets of their friends through business and media and all these other things. Now we got a guy in there who is beholden to no one. And he set everything up right. He put everybody in the right positions because he had this as a plan. He knew exactly what he was going to do the entire time, and now he's been doing it. and I'm happy about it. Okay, we got some gas coming up here. So that's all I want to say for now. Stick around, it ain't over. I'll fill you in. I'll stop somewhere here and give you some more thoughts on this trip. Very expensive gas in California. Crazy. All right, so I'm underneath this big tree. You just saw a picture of it. It's a giant tree. I just took a break. Gas is right there. Yeah, $5.49, $5.50 basically for regular. And I took a break, had an egg, had a banana, had some strawberries, and texted the people who I'm going to see. Because I forgot to text them before I left. And Maps tells me I'm about 3 hours away. And I've been here for a while, so I left at about 9:30, so an hour and a half. So it's about 5.5 hours up from LA to there, about, you know, give or take, maybe 6 hours. I did take a pretty big break here, so yeah, I'm gonna hit the road. I'll think of something else to tell you. So I was watching the computer this morning, and I was watching, so I like Forbes. I keep telling you guys, there's all these stations now where they'll do a live feed from something that's happening. Keep in mind, right? Remember, the last 4 years, that president hardly ever spoke to the press. Hardly ever. Didn't do hardly any interviews because he couldn't, right? But now Trump, I mean, pretty much every single day, multiple times a day, whether he's at the podium or he's on Air Force One or wherever, he's walking to the plane, he's taking questions on all topics. Boom, boom, boom. I was going to talk about Bernie real quick, but that Jasmine Crockett chick popped into my brain. Holy cow. What a complete moron. Just a moron. Moron. Idiot. What the hell? She's dumber than a box of rocks, man. I mean, she was saying how, this is crazy. I saw her in an interview with Katie Couric. By the way, a little Katie Couric thing. I don't know if this is true. Not saying this is true. I heard a rumor from a guy that was in Hollywood, in that world. He used to go out with Linda Hamilton. He was in love with her, and she kind of dumped him to marry that director, right, from the Terminator movies. I can't think of his name right now. Anyhow, he told me this story of how if you look at Stallone, like early on, and then at some point, like his face kind of changed, where like his cheekbones were in. The story was, and again, I can't prove this. I don't know if it's true. I don't remember ever I remember looking it up, and I couldn't see it. But remember the Dukes of Hazzard, and you had Bo and Luke. Well, Bo, John, I can't think of his name. He was actually a stuntman.
There are police reported ahead.
He's a big strapping dude, and apparently, this is the story I heard. I can't prove it's true. But the story I heard is he was going out with Katie Couric, and he came home to find her in bed with Sylvester Stallone, and that guy apparently beat up Stallone, like caved his face in and broke his skull basically, and they say that that's why he's looked a little bit different ever since then. I don't know if that's true. Anyhow, Katie Couric, as we know, is another one of those woohoo, you know, little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs kind of person, right? And she was interviewing this Jasmine Crockett chick who was saying that Biden's cognitive ability is better than Donald Trump. Okay, so you got a couple ways to look at this. Number one, I mean, obviously she's lying. I mean, if she believes that, she's an idiot. total moron. The people who voted for her are just as dumb as she is, if you believe the elections, which I don't. I think a lot of the elections kind of get rigged, you know. But when I say rigged, a lot of that's gerrymandering and that sort of thing. So either she believes it and she's just lying and cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, or, yeah, I mean, she's obviously lying and she knows it's not true. Either way, that's that side. Something else just popped into my brain. I think I shared it on my Facebook this morning. A woman in Britain, and she was rattling off all of the, I don't know what they call them there, well, cities, towns, whatever, how so many of them have Muslim mayors. And there, I think she said 3,000 mosques in Britain now. Europe is over. Like, here's the thing. Here's the really interesting thing. I've brought these points up before. And I told you, if you don't remember, I was in Paris for the millennium. And when that happened, when I was there, after the ball, well, whatever, it wasn't like a ball drop really. We were at the Eiffel Tower. They did this thing with lights. And after the, 2001 or 1999 to 2000, after that happened, the police came along. We were at the Seine, right there, pretty close to Notre Dame, looking at the Eiffel Tower, right at the river there. And the police broke us up. They actually used like a diluted CS gas. I could smell it. And the whole city in Mas went to the Champs-Élysées. And it was an awesome experience, and I have that whole night on VHS tape. One of these days I should get that on a CD or a DVD and show it to you guys. But because at some point we had made friends. I was with this woman friend of mine. She was French-Canadian. And we hooked up with a bunch of college-aged American exchange students. And so we ended up palling with them for the rest of the night, pretty much till the sun came up. And at one point, we were busted apart there for a minute. Then I heard everybody screaming for me, and I looked, and a brawl had broken out. And there was 3 or 4 of these college-age kids. I was in my 30s. And there was, I don't even know, 10 or a dozen. They turned out to be Algerian Muslims, kids, probably about the same age. They could be 16 to 20-something years old. Big group of them. And they just started beating on the 3 or 4 American kids. They heard them speaking English. Words were exchanged. And this big group of them just started beating on the American guys. So I run in there and just start grabbing these Algerians by the back of the collar, and I'm throwing. As I throw them, I'm putting my leg behind them, so I'm tripping them. I'm throwing them to the ground with both hands, just throwing them to the ground. Their heads are beaten off the ground. It was pretty comical. Some of this was caught on tape by my friend. Not the whole thing. She was too scared to catch the whole thing. But some of it's on there. And you see me just throwing people. And this Algerian kid pulls a knife out and starts slashing at me. And I just looked at him, and I just, very serious. And I told him, come on. I'm going to take that knife away from you. I'm going to shove it up your ass. And fortunately, he believed me, so he walked away. And that was the end of it. But I bring this up because at that time, right, that was January 1st, 2000, my own real-world experience. And at that time, I knew Paris was over. If you could get a group that large of Muslims to be that bold, to just attack people, that's when I knew. And I've been watching it for 25 years as these Islamists, these Muslims in these, first world countries, they let them in and they've been taken over. Now, if you guys don't know the real history of the Crusades, and I mentioned this, I don't know if it was the last video or the video before, I highly suggest that you please look up the real history of the Crusades, because what you hear these days is revisionist history. that it was a racist thing, that white Christians went over to the Holy Land for no reason. No, 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 no. There was at least 700 years of Muslim expansionism into North Africa, Southern Europe, all of it, where you're a jerk. You're a jerk. You know we're trying to pass you because you're going too fast in the fast lane. So, anyhow, as I was saying, the Crusades were a response to about 700 years of where Islam came all into Europe, Southern Europe, raped people, pillaged, forced attacks on people, tore down and burnt down churches, and then built mosques where the churches were. And then finally, Christians, said, screw this, they had enough, and what did they do? They did the Crusades, right? So they went over there and kicked the shit out of them, and we didn't hear from them again for a long, long time. Well, and I also mentioned to you guys the history of this country, right? Where even before we were a country, we were having trouble in the Mediterranean in particular because of the Muslim pirates from North Africa. And they were not just capturing our ships, but all ships. But they were capturing our ships, killing the crew, holding the officers for ransom, demanding money from us. And Thomas Jefferson spoke with these guys, and they told him that our book tells us to do this. That's it. And so Jefferson read it. He published the Jefferson Quran, and we know how that went. And then when Jefferson became president, right, I think he was the third president, one of the first things he did was send the Marines over there, right, to Tripoli, kick the shit out of the Muslims again, and we didn't hear anything from them for over 200 years. Trump is the modern day Jefferson, right? As far as that goes, that's what this is about. He went over there. He's had business dealings with Islam in these countries forever. Anyhow, he has personal relationships with them. But he's been saying for multiple decades that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. We all knew what they've been doing. It's no secret. And that's what he did. So I support it. I support it. Now people go, you support killing me? Shut up already with that, all right? Just stop. Because the reality is you're going to make an omelet, you're going to crack some eggs, right? That's just how it goes. It sucks. It sucks. But I'm an adult, okay? I'm not a baby. I'm not a child. I understand this is the way of the world. And if we didn't do this right now, we would be paying for it later. And the beginning of the last administration, I believe it was, there was a situation in Iran where we could have went over there and helped those people out at that time, and we didn't. We didn't do it. So now we're doing it. And this is going to be a good thing for Iran, because the people there can now rise up and create their own government separate of religion. And hopefully they'll write up their own constitution and maybe become more of a republic like we do, like we have, utilizing, a democratic method with voting and whatnot. That would be nice. We'll see how that goes. You're going to hear a little humming up here. That's not normal for my van. It has nothing to do with the rack. I have a table with some nylon straps holding it down, and this whole trip I didn't hear it at all. I've had it up there before, never had a problem. But we've got a kooky crosswind right now, so between being on the road here and the crosswind, it's creating that hum. And yes, it's very annoying, so I'm going to stop talking to you now so I can put my music on and drown that out. Alright, I forgot to tell you, with my dad, with the reams of slides, what happened to those? Because it's a shame, right? They're all gone, and it has to do with fire. I've been involved in a bunch of fire. Fire has been a part of my life, man. Not cool either. When I was young, like kindergarten, I lived in Kearney, New Jersey, and there was a kid that lived down the street, and he was like, I don't know, 16 to 18 14, in that range. And he was nice to all the young kids. He was a real good guy, and I loved him. My mother loved him. And he died in a fire. I mean, that was like the first, as a kid, like one of the first things that ever kind of affected me. Like somebody I knew that I cared about, not a family member, that went and died that way in a house fire, you know. So now you jump to, my parents get separated, divorced. You know, I'm 14, I'm living on my own. And that summer, ended up living in a campground for a part of the summer in a trailer. And so we had a lot of stuff there, including all my dad's slides. And something happened there, and I wasn't there at the time, obviously, I'm still here. But there must have been a gas leak, and so the trailer exploded and burnt. And so I lost a bunch of stuff, and we also lost all those slides. I'll tell you, before that, in 8th grade, it's an effed up story. I've told it before, but stay in your lane. Jesus, that guy was driving in my lane. Unbelievable. So there was a guy I was friends with, and he was trouble. He was a lot of trouble, and he was a criminal. And but hey, I did it too. You know, we were little hoodlums in the area in Patterson, and I'll tell you the story real quick. But it was 8th grade. You know, it's getting towards the end of the year, and he was coming to school every morning, and he'd fan out cash. He had all this cash on him. And I was asking him, like, where's the money coming from? And he wouldn't tell me. I have the sunglasses on because of the glare off the back windows of the cars in front of me. Anyhow, Friday rolls around, he's not in school, and he's not there for weeks. And he finally came back to school just at the end there. And what had happened was there was a little store, a little ice cream candy shop right on Union Ave, right where Patterson butts up to Totowa, and there's a cemetery there. So this business, it was called Boonstra's. It was right there next to the cemetery. And he was jimmying a window and breaking in every morning and stealing money out of the cash register. Well, he did it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah. Newsflash, jail is full of dummies like Jasmine Crockett, you know? Maybe she'll be in there one day. So he does it 5 days in a row. 5th day, he's in the cash register taking the money. He looks up, there's 2 cops standing there. So they arrest him. So he gets out and comes by my pad one afternoon. We're hanging out, and we go for this walk. And we end up, behind the store was some woods, right? So some empty lots. And we go back there, we go behind the store, and he had stashed a can of gasoline there, unbeknownst to me. He walks up to the building with the can of gasoline. He starts throwing gasoline on the building. I'm like, what are you doing? I run away. I had nothing to do with it, man. I didn't know he was going to do it. It was a setup. He just wanted me there with him, right? I guess because he was going to convince me to be his alibi, which I did. Wrongly. It was the wrong thing to do. Anyhow, I run out of the woods. I'm out on the corner. A minute or so or less, he comes running out. Shocked look on his face. We walk up the hill. We walk over a block. We look down, and there's flames 3 times the height of this store. He lit that store up, burnt it down. So, you know, being quick-witted, you know, like take your shirt off, because if anybody saw 2 kids running in white t-shirts, you know, so we walk back around the neighborhood. We get back to my place. My mom's out front. We're like, hey, the store's on fire. Totally play it off. And school is still in session at this time. Because I remember, I came home from school that week, and there's a detective there. And he's asking me about it, and I'm lying, right? I'm lying for my friend. And then the next week or 10 days later, whatever it is, I come home from school. My mom's pissed. She's like, we have to go to the police station. Why? Well, the police say that somebody called the police station saying that you burnt the store down. So now I go to the cops and I tell them the story, and they take my statement. And the lesson learned here is when you speak to the police, try to use proper grammar. Not easy for me, especially then, because you read your statement before you sign it. And I read the way I spoke, because they type it the way you speak. So if you say yeah, they write yeah. Okay? So you understand. And I just sounded like one of the Bowery boys, like one of the Dead End kids. I read how I sounded, and it was pathetic. Anyhow, that's another fire that I'm involved in. Then, flash forward a few years, I'm in high school. I'm living alone all through high school at the Jersey Shore, where my dad had the bakery. And the deal was, because I'd gotten in so much trouble, in freshman year in New York, I spent a year in New York. Freshman year, I failed 5 subjects because I was cutting school every day, smoking grass and everything else. So I had to go to summer school, and so I could pass, which I did. But at that time, my dad said to me, he says, look, man, if you don't want to go to school, you don't have to, but then you got to work. And I chose to go to school. But I said to him, I said, hey, you're not here anyhow. At the time, he was doing a series of diners. It could be anywhere from 3 to 8 diners that he would work in, and they would pay him anywhere from, I guess, 3 to 6. I think he was mostly getting about $600 a day at each diner. And this is the 80s. That's really good money. And he would bake enough goods to last until the next time he could get there. And because he was like me now. That's how I'm going to Monterey to do this project. I drive all over the country to do projects. People call me. I'm like a hitman. You call me up because you got a job, you're doing a house, but you don't have the skilled labor. You don't have guys that can do like real good quality trim work or do a custom built-in like I can do, blah, blah, blah. Well, I learned this from my father. That's what my father was. So, okay. I said, I'll go to school, but the deal was I had to go to school every day, and I had to pass. I had to keep my nose clean, which led to me looking like a pussy quite a few times. Because there was times when I was getting into like a fight or something, I had to walk away because I kept hearing my dad's voice in my head. I didn't want to get in trouble. So every summer I lived in a boarding house, 26 9th Ave. It's no longer there. Big, giant Spanish villa, 3-story house. They let out rooms, and it was an old couple, Italian couple, the Stefanaccis. Emil Stefanacci. They were such beautiful human beings. I love my dad. My dad used to rent a room there when he was young. And then during the school year, during that part of the year, my dad, he knew everybody, so he would find me some beach house, real cheap to rent. And it was fun. I had parties all the time. You guys know the stories. And senior year rolls around. I'm working all summer, and he finds me a beach house in South Seaside. So it's about a week before school. I move in. My 2 friends help me move in. And one of them, he put my bag of dirty laundry on top of a space heater in the floor. I didn't know it was there. And my other friend was over that night. We were going to go to a party. Well, he turned the heat on. I had nothing to do with it. I swear. Famous words, right? It's the truth, though. I had nothing to do with it. And I come home and I'm loaded. And I go to bed, but I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning. I can't breathe. I can barely see the lights on my stereo. They're all fuzzy. And I try to go back to sleep, but I realize I can't breathe. I was so drunk, you know? And that's when I realized the room was full of smoke. So I jump up, I go out of the bedroom, and I look in the hallway, and I look down down the hallway into the living room, and I can see the whole living room is on fire. It was crazy. It was totally insane. So, you know, the funny thing was there was a plaque on the wall. And it said, in case of fire, this is the truth, man. It said, in case of fire, lift. And you turn it over, and it says, not now, stupid, in case of a fire. There was no smoke detectors in that house, but in every room of the house, there was either a crucifix or a picture of Jesus. And Hand to God. Hand to God. Now, here's what's crazy about that, and I don't often share this part of it, but since I've been talking about women and everything in the videos lately, I don't know when it started, probably 9th grade. Oftentimes, when I would hook up with some girl, she would either leave behind a pair of panties or a bra or something, or she'd give it to me, you know, and then I might even ask, or I might just take it, whatever. But I had a collection of girls' panties and bras, and it was a pretty extensive collection. And when my friend helped me move in, as a joke, I had a bunch of thumbtacks, because, you know, you would put your rock and roll posters and your blue light psychedelic posters and all that on the wall. And back then, you know, we were kids. We weren't putting them in frames. So we were just thumbtacking them to the walls. So we thumbtacked all this underwear, bras and panties to the wall in my bedroom. And every room had a crucifix or a picture of Jesus in it. I'm just saying, maybe that was a hint and a half, you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe the Lord was like, hey, let's slow it down a little bit here, all right? Let's slow it down a little. Let's burn you out, basically make it where you got to start from scratch and lose everything. I never put 2 and 2 together, you know? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. You know, there's other fire stuff that happened after that, but we'll leave it there for now. After that story, that guy I was friends with burning down the store and everything, I was thinking, what if somebody was asking me, like, what else I have done in my past that was pretty messed up? And also, I was thinking about the girls and everything. And this thing popped in my brain. I haven't thought of this in a long time. And it's pretty messed up, in a way. Like, this is how bold I was at that time, right? And we're talking, I was probably like 16 years old. You know, I'm working, you know, Jersey Shore, man. I'm working on the boardwalk. There were times, and I'm not bragging. I am not proud of it. But I did it, because that's what I thought everybody else was doing. But there were days where you would sleep with sometimes 3 girls in one day, like within 24 hours, easily. That was the easy thing to do. And I found myself in this headspace, and I'm on the final season of True Blood. If you guys remember that, there was Jason Stackhouse, Sookie's brother. He's this good-looking guy. He's pretty ripped, and he's just boning everybody, man. And it's that same sort of thing. Like, it just keeps happening, so you just accept it as your reality. And I remember there was this girl I met, and it's a weird thing, Seaside, at that time in the 80s, because, you know, you go down there with your family, and, you know, the girls are down there, and that's what they want. It was a different mindset. Back then, and I can't speak for everybody, but everybody I knew, everybody wanted to have sex. As soon as you knew about it and your body was working, you wanted to try it out. And girls wanted to lose their virginity. That was a thing. And so they would come down the shore with their family, and then they meet us local guys, and we would oblige them. That is just how it is. And I remember I met this girl, and obviously she was good looking and everything. We hit it off, we made out and all this. And she had told me where she was staying, and she wanted me to come by late that night to get her. And so I went over there, and it was late, right? It was after midnight, and she was nowhere to be found. This is how crazy I was with this. Again, not my proudest moment. But the door was unlocked. So I went in the house, and it was a big family, and they had sleeping in bedrooms, but there was people sleeping on sofas and on the floor. And I walked through this house with all these strangers that don't know me. They're all sleeping, and I find this girl, and I tap her, and she wakes up, and she gets a big smile on her face, and I go like this. We went outside, and you know what we did? We went to the beach, and we had crazy. Imagine you're a father, and some guy walks into your house and sneaks your door, and you would have caught that guy. I could have had my ass handed to me, and I would have deserved it. Now, I tell you that. I told you the other stuff, but there was something else that happened couple of years ago. So with Facebook, all these groups keep popping up, and there's multiple groups for towns, right? And so there's groups for Seaside Park, for Seaside Heights and all that. And my boy Joe Verderosa, the Verderosas owned a bunch of stands on Funtown Pier, and I worked for them when I was 15 years old. And he runs one of these groups. And so I had taken a lot of pictures back then, and I posted them all up. And Joe has them all, and he posts my pictures from time to time. And there was comments going on underneath one of the photographs. And this woman starts talking to me, and she said, because she saw pictures of me, right? There's pictures of me when I was 15, 16 years old at the boardwalk. And she says, I know you, I remember you. And that's a little scary, right? Because I don't know what she's going to say next. And she said to me, she said, you saved my life one night. And that's how she felt about it anyhow. And she started telling me the story, and I remembered. So as much of a dog as I am, I was never forcing anybody to have sex with me. I'm not that kind of guy. Never have been, still am not. But I remember this girl. I came up on her, and there was a bunch of guys. The way she described it, there was like 3 or 4 dudes, and they were harassing her, and she was scared. And I came into the mix, and I did not know these guys. But I got between her and them. I assessed the situation. She did not want to be in that situation. And I took her by the hand, and I walked her away from that. And she was real sweet. We got along. And the funny thing is, we did make out, but she was not ready for that. And which was fine with me. I was like, yeah, I'm not fine. I'm just happy I could help you out. But I would have never remembered that I did that, had it not been for her remembering me, finding me on Facebook just because of photographs, and then telling me how much she really appreciated the fact that I was a stand-up dude and really helped her out. She was afraid that she was going to get raped that night. So it's a nice story. Just figured I'd give you an update. I didn't have to, but I stopped in Greenfield to get gas. The wind here is nuts. It almost knocked me over just getting fuel. No kidding, man. It's crazy. And there's it's all Hispanic people there. It's really funny. I was getting the craziest looks from people. It was insane. Like there was something wrong with me just for pulling in there to get fuel. And it wasn't like just people at the gas station. It was everybody I drove past. They were all looking at me like, what's the gringo doing here? It was wild, man. And another thing, it's $5.50 up here for fuel. And we're closer to Sacramento. Like you would think the people in California, especially up here, would just be up in arms just over the cost of fuel alone. In particular, compared to the rest of the country. Now, I haven't been paying attention. I'm sure that gas prices are maybe a little bit high right now just because of what's going on in the Middle East. It will settle. But I got friends in New Jersey paying a fraction of that. So, come on, man. California, this is insane. Something I forgot to mention, I'm on my way to Monterey. I'm probably about 45 minutes away from my destination. It's not actually Monterey itself, it's Seaside, the town of Seaside. That's my hometown in Jersey, Seaside Park. So that's kind of cool. Just figured I'd throw that out at you. And like I said, the wind here is insane. I got off the 101 just after Greenfield, and I'm on this goofy little road now. And you head straight towards these big old mountains. And then as you get close to them, you bang a right, and now it's all this wavy climbing. So I guess we're going to climb. Pretty certain that up there it's cliffs that go down to the beach. I'm not sure, but I have done the coast a lot in the past. I used to drive up here quite a bit in my old Dodge truck back in the 90s. And then I've been up here on the motorcycle and all that. But it has been a long time. Long time. So it's very, very pretty up here. It's just the cost of the fuel. I made it. And this is the house, and that's where the threshold's going, and everything's cool. I've been here a couple hours already. Walked around, checked everything out, discovered a couple things, found some more work. And now I'm just kind of getting these videos together, all stitched together for you guys so you can see it, and then we're going to go out to dinner. It's going to be very cool. I'll be staying in the van. Sorry, it might have been too close up for you. You don't want this mug too close in the face. I know some of you guys watch me on a giant screen television at home. I apologize. Anyhow, this is going to be fun. It's chilly up here. Again, in Seaside, the Monterey Peninsula. I'm stoked. And that worked out great. No problems whatsoever. Still rock solid. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a good night. Thanks for being here. Be good.